Hey guys, it's Marla at Twinstrology, and I'm back once again with Debbie Dubois
Hi, guys.
from True Sacred Union. And we were just sitting here having a discussion about the awakening masculine energies. And we were going to pull some cards, and we just decided to record it and share what we get with you.
Yeah, we've been having a little bit of a conversation about, how things are shifting for that awakening masculine. We do see some patterns out there, and we're very curious as to how the higher energies will assist in helping make some of the shifts and changes that need to be made. So we're kind of just sort of observing. We're the divine feminine holding that power for the awakening masculine.
Right. And as I just said to you, Debbie, I'm a little bit hesitant to use these terms because as we move into unity consciousness, we have to awaken to the idea that as long as we keep saying divine feminine, divine masculine, separating them out, it does create a sense of separation
Right.
within our consciousness. And yet we're kind of stuck because
it's what everyone knows it as. That's what's so funny because we were talking about that, and that's the truth. I mean, we're so used to seeing DM, DF, divine feminine, divine masculine. We've tried to cover whether that's just the energies of the feminine and the energies of the masculine, and there's a crossover in the sexual aspects and all of that. But I really loved when Marla, said the awakening masculine is what this reading is about. Because we have observed that a lot of masculine are going through the grinder right now. They're literally, the universe is pushing them to come into their own power, to grab their own power. Somehow they've been subjugated themselves in a lot of cases. And so we're just very fascinated as to where all of this is going. So Marla said, let's pull some cards.
Yeah, so we're just going to pull some cards and see what comes up to some questions. But yeah, just keep that in mind. Like, we have to be aware of the language that we're using. And I think most of the people that watch my videos are pretty savvy in this department and understand about these things, but I just wanted to clarify that. And as we move more into balance of our own masculine and feminine, there's going to be crossover in that there's going to be reflections of the divine feminine within the divine masculine's reading too. So
right.
So be aware of the things that are pertaining to you and your own personal energy, and not just seeing everything as your true sacred partner.
Right, and there is the fact that we're all awakening. It's not like the masculine is the only one awakening. We know that the feminine is also awakening in different places in different ways. But we thought we would just sit and focus in on some of the masculine's awakening right now today.
Yes. Okay. So what was your first question, Debbie? I think, do you remember what it was?
Well, I think it was really like, what is the universe doing right now to kind of move that process along? What can we expect from, the heavens, or, something just jumped out.
Okay, so the first card that came out in response to what the universe is doing to help shift the divine masculine is obstacles and challenges.
Oh my God. Yes.
This is the Five of Wands. I'm using the deck, The Psychic Tarot by John Holland. So the universe is putting obstacles and challenges in their way. They're having to watch their footing right now.
Yeah, they're walking on precarious ground.
Yeah.
There's like this card that, I'm looking at has this big break right in front of the feet of the person as they're taking steps. And it's like they need to be very careful. They're being very careful and cautious not to rock the boat, not to like upset the apple cart, because they can kind of see that if they go one step to the left or one step to the right, they're they're like, I don't want to use a bad word, but
Right.
seriously. So they're walking a thin line
Mm-hmm.
with their obstacles and challenges.
This is a 5 card as well. 5s represent change. So change is happening for them. And it's like when I look at this, there's like a walkway, as you said, Debbie, that's broken. And it's like, how can I explain this, what I'm getting? It's like they're having to move away from the past. They're having to make that step over into new ground and let go of the old.
And trust that change.
Yeah.
Trust the change that needs to be made. Because that's kind of scary. I mean, that's a chasm that goes like, you look down, that's really, really a far drop. If something were to go wrong and they weren't able to make that leap, they could crash below, and there's a river there. They would just go right into the water. It reminds me of Niagara Falls.
But ultimately, with the 5 of Wands, it's a card about challenges that help you. You know, challenges that will ultimately lead you to higher ground.
Right. That's fascinating. And that is a 5 card.
And there's these little angels around as well.
Yeah,
little guarding angels.
They're like orbs. They're like, and it's like that. Yeah, there's a lot of. I hate to say the word divine assistance. There is assistance from their entourage that's around them,
whether they realize it or not.
Right, exactly. And how much are they calling upon that? Ooh, we got another card that just flew right out. It's another 5 card.
5 of Pentacles.
Oh my gosh.
And this is called financial and material changes.
Oh my gosh. This is so wild, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. So they're needing to change their financial situations as well. And
yeah,
we see that a lot within the awakening masculine. That's one of the ways that the universe is putting up obstacles in their path, is they're putting obstacles in their financial abundance.
Yeah, because it's kind of playing with that, the old template of having to be the provider. And with challenges of being a provider, it's very difficult to continue to feel you're succeeding at that. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, it's almost like until, you know, like pairing up with obstacles and challenges, you know, until certain changes are made, it's almost like there has to be some kind of a block. The universe is blocking that because if they were just completely abundant, they would continue on in their situation the way it is.
Right. And I think that our financial situations, our level of abundance is a good way to create shifts in people. Let me try to tune into this. Because it's when we're in that separation, that idea of separation, that when we're not in our spiritual power, when our third eyes are not awake, we tend to struggle with issues of abundance, is what I'm picking up on. And so it's a way for them to begin to awaken to some of these concepts. And so having to shift, you know, there's a lot about law of attraction and stuff like that, and beginning to see the correlation between our thoughts and what is actually manifesting in our life. And through abundance, that can easily be seen. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Oh, these two, this is such a very strong, clear answer from higher guidance that's what the universe is doing right now to all awakening masculine. I think that is one of the things that I've been picking up on really strongly, is that this is a major templated shift. This is not like just twin flames. This is not just sacred partners. This is what has to happen in general for the masculine to come back into balance with the feminine. Because there's been, we talked about this earlier, that there's been this teeter-totter. It's like at one point, the woman was the caretaker and the slave, if you will, to the masculine's goals and objectives. And somewhere along the line, whoop, that that seesaw
And
went in one direction.
Not that long ago.
No.
We're talking 30, 40 years this is happening.
I'm seeing it like majorly just within like half of that span where it really flipped on its head, and all of a sudden women, they're not doing their own grocery shopping. They're not doing their own laundry. I mean, some. They're relying so much on the masculine, and the masculine, for some God unknown reason, feels that it's their now responsibility to take on all that. I don't know if it's out of guilt. When the universe is saying, no, we're not needing that pendulum swing. You don't need to be enslaved for 30,000 years. You know what I'm saying? We don't have to have a complete balancing of that energy. Change needs to happen. Double fives. And they're doing it around obstacles in financial circumstances.
And I think, like, let's be clear, it's not, the masculine and feminine have to work together in partnership, is what we're saying. And so for a long time, obviously the feminine was repressed and it was not an equal partnership. And what you're saying, Debbie, is in the last 20, 30 years, it's gone the other way, where it seems like the men have just taken on more and more and more and more, to where a lot of times
the feminine are using that.
There's not an equal partnership within the relationship.
And what's even more important is somewhere in the masculine psyche, they feel they deserve that.
Yeah.
So they're not, they feel responsible for their partners. So they take that on and they try to fix it. And they try to take care of, but what they're not doing, they're not taking care of their own needs.
And what this brings to mind what you talked about in your article, how the awakening masculine, a lot of them come from broken homes and bad situations in their family, and they're very determined not to recreate that situation in their own families.
I'm not going to be that guy.
Yeah, that's how you said it. They're not going to be their dad.
Right.
Whether their dad walked out, or their dad was abusive, or their dad was cheating on their mom.
Sometimes they don't even acknowledge that there was anything up with their dads. They think their dads were all great and everything else, but there's still something there. I don't know if the mothers were talking in their ears saying, I don't want you to be that kind of a boy. I don't want you to be the kind of boy that does this, programming them to believe that they had to do certain things to be accepted or to be honorable or to be, and what we really got, we've got a bunch of awakening masculine that are riding their white horses with their armor.
Exactly. A lot of the twin flames especially have a templating of they've got to be the white knight.
Yep.
And they've got to rescue people.
Yep.
Because they have done that in other lifetimes. Yeah. And so that's something that has to be let go of, because that's not creating equality.
Well, and that goes into something else we were talking about that we hope to talk about in the future, which is empowerment. Because if you come in on a white horse, you're disempowering the other person to take care of their own self. So then they don't grow. They just sort of sit there and just get comfortable in the servitude, you know? And that could be why a lot of, I'm going to say soulmate, or people say the karmic partnerships and stuff, why they're holding on fast and steady, even with twins that are awakened, you know?
Yeah.
Some are not moving on for similar reasons.
Well, as I talked about in the conference, and what goes along with what you said about the awakening masculine not wanting to be that guy, is what I've picked up on for a while is that the divine masculine, or the awakening masculine, is healing a lot of family templates, especially as it relates to children. As I mentioned a minute ago, a lot of them had their fathers leave, or, not in their life, and they don't want to be that to their children. So the children has been a really big piece for many of the awakening masculine. And they're not going to just leave their families and leave their children, because as the awakening masculine, they're here to heal that family issue of, we've gotten away, like there's so many people that don't have their fathers, and this has to change in our society. We have to have, not that people have to stay together, because that's definitely not true, but we have to have mothers and fathers play an active role for children. And so we have to get to the point where the awakening masculine is taking steps to heal this.
And I would say the word is abandonment. Yeah. It's like they're trying to heal the abandonment template. They can't abandon their families. They can't abandon their spouse. They can't abandon their children. But what they don't understand is that white knight on a horse is holding those people in patterns and the children in patterns, because that's what's been really apparent is if you talk to the children, and I know I talk about my very own children, they're like, and how many times you hear, I wish you did this a long time ago. Why did you stay? Mm-hmm. The kids aren't asking the people to stay.
Right. I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. In my own situation too. Mm-hmm. Kids adjust.
Well, and they know happiness when they see it. They feel the energy shift when they feel it. No longer is this disempowering and empowering, struggle going on between the two partners. The children are like, oh my God, I'm free. I'm free of that struggle for empowerment and disempowerment. And they're free of the templating that relationship puts on them, hopefully.
Well, if you're in a bad relationship, or if there's tension in your relationship,
or lack of love,
your children definitely feel that. And the children on the planet Earth today are very much more awakened than we ever were.
Children.
They're very much tuned into the energy, even if they don't express that, they're feeling it. And so, in some respects, if the divine masculine is trying to heal that wound by staying there, they also have to realize they're templating their children in how, basically how to stay in a bad relationship.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. And isn't that a reflection of what we used to see in the generation before with the abused spouse that would stay? Mm-hmm. Why aren't you leaving him? He's beat you. He's done all these things, but you stay, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the reverse happening. This shows the acceleration of time, because what took so long to happen on the divine, the awakening feminine, the awakening masculine is not, I'm getting very strongly. This isn't going to take a century. This is happening now. We're in the middle of that ascension shift. Cryon talks about the 18 years in and the 18 years out. We're well into that 18 years out for this shift. So, yeah, that's how they're doing it. That's how, as a collective, the masculine is healing. Are there any other?
Yeah, the masculine is definitely going to heal that template. And so what I've been getting is that they're just waiting for the divine to show them the way to leave their situations without abandoning anybody, especially not their children if there's children involved.
Right.
And we're moving towards situations where parents can be split, still be very loving and connected, and making sure the children are cared for. And
well, in my situation, we call it parenting partners.
Perfect.
We're parenting partners. And so there is a actual unit there. It's an actual energy of two combined beings. It's just for the purpose of parenting the children. So what else have we got? Let's see. So that's one of the major ways the universe is working with the awakening masculine.
It's interesting in the traditional tarot, the Five of Pentacles shows a beat up beggars outside of a church.
Yeah.
And it's that feeling of abandonment, but you're not abandoned.
Right. Right, and that's probably what they're struggling with at this point. What do we got?
Six of Cups, memories of love.
My God. Okay. Well, let's just open this right up. So how does someone shift? Contrast. Esther Hicks talks about contrast. We learn through contrast. Bashar talks about contrast. We learn through contrast. Well, how does this person shift? Memories of love. Mm-hmm. We just got the memories of love card, which is the 6. Oh my God.
They know, the awakening masculine know in their heart what true love is.
Right.
That's why they want to be that white knight.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And they're awakening more to what love truly is as they go through their process. They're remembering more.
And those who have had the catalytic heart awakening, they know what real love feels like. They know what unconditional love feels like. They know what unity consciousness feels like. They know what open-hearted connection feels like. So they've got the contrast between the limitations of the obstacles, challenges, and the finance with the memory of what real love feels like. That's got to be incredibly hard.
Well, I think some feminine have lived through that.
Well, I do think, but isn't that interesting? Because wasn't that kind of part of the awakening process of us as the awakening feminine?
Yeah.
Because we're in marriages, right? Marriages where we're like counting on some financial security. Mm-hmm. So in a sense, we're the same as a lot of these partners of these awakening masculine that are not maybe, say, properly suited for each other. We were in that same role. We had to make decisions. How do I get out of this situation and be able to support myself?
Right.
How can I stand as a single unit when I'm used to being a partner in a business where there's give and take and everybody supports each other, even if you're fighting or discordant energies? And what made us leave? Memories of love. Mm-hmm. They're just in a wave right after us, Marla.
Yeah.
So they're getting the same exact things from the universe that we got. It does seem, though, that they're hanging on extra tight. And I don't know if it's because those programs are so strong. Might be levels of self-awareness.
Well, I think it takes time to shift anything. And as we were talking about earlier, Deb, we go through these things over and over and over again. It takes us a while sometimes to see, or even when we begin to see, we don't always know how to get out of it. It's all in divine timing.
Right. And so we end up saying, well, I just have to let go of it. I just have to allow it to unfold.
Right. And remember, this is what the universe is, how the universe is helping the awakening masculine. So
right.
It's up to the universe here.
Right. And so there's the songs that play in their mind that remind them of their sacred partners. It's the absence makes the heart grow fonder if they don't see them or hear from them for a while. It's always dreams. It's angels whispering in their ear. Who knows? Mm-hmm. But from experience, it's impossible to purge the experience of true love from your soul. It's impossible to do it. There are a lot of people that really try to put up those walls, but it's impossible to purge it. It's there. It's already awoken. That's what a catalytic heart awakening is about. It's about the heart cracking wide open.
Well, any awakening,
there you go,
revolves around love, right?
Right.
You can't have an awakening and not have some connection to love, whether you're a divine partner or not. Like that's the only true thing in the universe is love.
Yeah, good point. Because I'm thinking of the awakening masculine that are not discovered to have a catalytic partner. They still have that. I don't know, maybe this is where the programming of the Hollywood love romance comes in, that everyone's always seeking that ideal partnership. And they are they're in, like I think of my situation personally, where you're not aligned anymore. When you're not aligned anymore, there's something missing in terms of companionship and partnership. And there's still a longing for that partnership, a longing for someone to spend the time with, to be in that union. So a memory of love doesn't have to even come from the catalytic heart awakening that they've experienced here.
Right. I mean, for twin flames and sacred partners, they're on the forefront of that. But everyone that's awakening has this connection, like you say. And if you're not in a happy relationship, what do you tend to do? Daydream about your ideal relationship,
or run from relationships altogether and bury yourself in things that
has a way of coping.
Mind. Right. Yeah, because I see the focusing on activities and sports or games or things that occupy the mind.
But I think the universe here is saying they're not letting that happen.
Absolutely. So what are you going to do now?
Do we feel like looking at some karmic patterns, possibly?
Sure. Absolutely. I really like these cards. Which is this deck? Oh, this is that one.
Psychic Tarot.
Yeah.
John Holland's deck. This is a great deck for people that maybe find learning the regular tarot a bit daunting, and they want kind of an entry deck, but more of a tarot than oracle deck. This is a deck that I recommend to people. But this deck I'm using now is the Past Life Oracle deck by Doreen Virtue.
I really love, that's one of the things I've really enjoyed about staying here with Marla is, she's been showing me decks and I've been able to play with some of them. And I even got one from a metaphysical store. And what I'm starting to use the tarot for more than anything else is just my own personal guidance. I really want to learn how to use it for myself each day to kind of, align myself with the energies more often and see what messages come through.
So from the question of what are the karmic patterns that the divine masculine are dealing with, the first card is leaving or traveling.
Oh my God, I'm looking at these cards going, no way! Oh my God, because you still look at the cards. I love these cards. It's like download. Go ahead, Marla.
And I might try to sneak these card images into the video. If I can't, then I'll post them on my Facebook page if people really want to see the cards. So yeah, leaving and traveling, I think that goes absolutely with everything we've talked about, and that pattern of leaving.
Think of going off to war. Think of all the times the Vikings took off in their ships. All the times that people were off to sea and never came back. Abandonment. Healing all of that stuff. I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it goes with what we were saying about the father issues. Some for the last few generations, maybe the fathers not being there. And I think in some cases, like the fathers were there, but not necessarily tuned into what the family was going through. Like in my own situation, I had a father that was very disconnected from the family. He was there. He supported us.
But he was absent.
But emotionally, he couldn't be there because of his own wounds.
Right. Unavailable. Unattached. Kind of there, but not really there. You know what else I'm seeing? Because remember, our question is, what is the universe doing to create something for, all right, travel? Circumstances are being created where these awakening masculine are being called to places. They're going places and having to be called away from their circumstances too. So I'm picking up that some of these guys, you know what I'm saying? It could be awakening masculine that are women. Doesn't matter. The universe may start also pushing forward scenarios where they literally have to go or have to be separated. Or they have to cope during a period of time of separation from that family situation.
Yes.
To give them clarity. Maybe some of them are actually traveling to get away from those situations. I can't imagine the universe is going to support that for very long, though. Get back here and deal with your stuff. Okay, so that may be one of the reasons why this card is showing up is, of course, we're looking at past life stuff.
Right. Well, I think, too, there's a lot of guilt. The awakening masculine have left, whether it's situations outside their control, such as war, or they've left their divine partner in past lives, right, and there's some subconscious guilt associated with it, and that's part of their now being like, I have to be the white knight, and I have to stay.
That. Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say.
I left my partner before.
Right, and so they're seeing the situations that they're in as that same situation when they have abandoned their sacred partners. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, let's go into the other two cards.
Phobias is the next card.
Right. Well, let's not forget that the masculine has also been the feminine and vice versa. They probably also, on the flip side, have experienced being abandoned and the fear of being abandoned. And what's the worst thing you can do to someone is abandon them. So the fear of abandonment from themselves creates that situation.
And they've been abandoned as children, as we all have.
True.
That's a big wound. You know, we've all been orphaned or, you know, as I said, your parents can be there, but not really be there for you.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree with that.
I'm just picking up a lot of probably subconscious fears with that card. Sometimes we don't always connect our fears with what's actually going on.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think there's the fear of retribution. What happens if? What happens if I do this and that person doesn't survive? What happens if, you know, I make a change for my life? There's all kinds of stories going on. It's just a bunch of fears. What's going to happen? Will that person kill themselves? I mean, seriously, I really do think that
is an issue that some people are actually dealing with.
Absolutely. Someone who tries to control them by saying, I can't live without you. And the fear of what happens when you finally say, well, you're going to have to. Yeah.
And plus that, you know, abandonment, as you said, that creates a lot of fear for moving forward.
Right. Wow. Health. Are you ready to go to that card yet?
Sure.
I'm like, health, wow. Because I'm seeing that firsthand. Now, experiencing that stuff, awakening masculine, experiencing this repercussion of not moving forward is the health being affected. Mm-hmm. Yeah. My very own spouse situation, his health is being affected. He's literally breaking out in hives and rashes. His feet swell, his hands swell. He can barely even function. His back's being thrown out. The health issue.
Yeah, I think a lot of awakening masculine are dealing with that. And
tune into the past life. You're good at that.
Well, on a past life level, what I'm really picking up on that card is that a lot of them are healers. And that's part of their heart and having trouble breaking free is because they're natural healers. They want to help.
Want to fix.
Yeah. But, okay, what else I was getting about that card that relates to now is for a lot of them too, as they're awakening, they're becoming more sensitive and their body is trying to tell them things, especially when they're around people, doesn't even necessarily have to be their partner or their sacred partner, but just all relationships. You can get a feeling in your body when things aren't right, and that can affect your health.
Right. Yeah, the resonance of the people that are around you are going to impact you unless you're really, really skilled at clearing and shielding and being conscious and continuing to clear. But even then, I mean, most of the awakening masculine, they're so engrossed in helping their family or serving that they're not taking care of themselves.
No, they're not.
They're not even aware of their bodies.
Right.
Or the universe is making them aware of their bodies, I guess, is maybe if we go along with the theme of this reading.
Right, because if they're not connecting their feelings with what's going on, and everything's connected, has within, so without. Your inside reflects outwardly and vice versa. So
right.
If they're not connecting it, the universe is just making it more and more and more intense for them.
And it's reflecting in their bodies. And it's kind of like, I want to say from the movie Shawshank Redemption, you need to get busy living or get busy dying. I mean, your bodies are literally not going to support. And there you go. That's what I'm getting very strongly to go along with this whole reading. The universe is not going to support this, guys. They're not going to support it. So if you don't move forward in your, and this is masculine, feminine, awakening everybody. If you do not move forward in your truth, and you do not find your feminine, masculine balance and your equilibrium within self, the health is what's going to suffer. You're not going to be able to stay on the planet. That's how important that part is.
Mm-hmm. There's something else right there for me. This happens all the time.
Oh, yeah. Well, just if it's there, don't be afraid to come back to it either.
Yeah. And Kundalini, too. There's a snake. The Caduceus on here. And that can be related to Kundalini and the changes, the physical changes that happen when we awaken. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Some of the awakening masculine numb themselves out to drugs, alcohol, whatever they need to do to kind of escape. Even just going, in their minds.
Mm-hmm.
Coping mechanisms, like being outside their body, because not being grounded or like not being comfortable in their body, so our soul can like not reside fully in our physical body.
Oh, yeah.
And that affects our health a lot.
Yes.
And some of those things, like drinking and drugs and things, or smoking cigarettes, are ways for people to try and ground.
Right.
Too, because they're not grounded, or to try to escape.
Well, and sometimes when you're not looking after your health, it's like your body's going to draw your attention back to your body through dis-ease of the body not being comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have to be in your body more because it's hard to escape it.
Absolutely. I was just thinking that.
Isn't that funny? It's not surprising.
We're on the same page.
Yeah, that's really cool. We've been having fun, since BAMF. We realized that, there's been some unity consciousness that's taken place here. And Marla and I are kind of pretty attuned to, some of the stuff. Oh, we got cards. Oh my gosh. I love these cards. These cards are... Tell people what these cards are.
These are the Power of Surrender cards by Judith Orloff.
And so what we're basically asking is, what does the awakening masculine need to surrender, right? In order...
Yes.
Now, how does this relate to the universe and what the universe is creating it's forcing them to surrender in certain ways?
Well, I was just looking at these three cards as what the universe was doing.
Okay. All right.
And so this is just telling us what they need to shift, what they need to surrender to or let go of in order to shift this energy. Actually, you guys are going to laugh because it goes so much with what we've been talking about.
You can't make this stuff up.
The first card is surrender to complete healing. Open fully to the loving, compassionate forces of the universe that support your physical, emotional, and spiritual healing.
So there we are with the health and the healing.
Right.
You know?
Allowing the healing to happen for them. Mm-hmm. I honestly think some are a little bit resistant to healing.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to because I know how resistant I was to healing.
Yeah.
Some of the healing processes that I went through, I did like some Sedona method with my very dear friend. He had to hit me upside the head really hard because I was so resistant. So I'm definitely not tossing any stones at anyone. But yeah, resistant is what I would say is one of the hugest pieces that I've seen.
Yeah, and it's like just resistant to shifting patterns because it's what we know. Mm-hmm. It's just what we know and what's comfortable, even when things aren't good for us.
And it's what they're afraid of is going to happen if they do.
Yeah.
You know, what's going to happen? There's phobias. What's going to happen if I do this? If I allow myself to actually heal? Because if you actually heal, you got to move on. In vibration, you have to move forward. Mm-hmm. And that's really difficult to do when you're trying very hard not to.
Right. Because you feel you have to stay somewhere.
Because you got to do this knight in shining armor thing.
Next one is surrender denial. Accept people and situations exactly as they are without denying the difficulties. Then you can see clearly and make the best decisions.
I think there's definitely, at least in my home situation, a definite, awakening masculine, absolutely in denial. Not whatever you said, with accepting people and situations as they are without denying the difficulties. Even though he might say, "Oh yeah, I see it," he doesn't want to do anything about it. Doesn't want to make any decisions. So it's like, it's still a denial.
And the woman on this card has a blindfold on. So it's like, I'm not going to see. Yesterday, yes. I did a reading for someone actually, and what I got that their partner was shifting was the refusing to see card. Okay, this was what they were transforming. So getting ready to take the blindfold off. So I think this is telling us that the awakening masculine is getting ready to confront things more instead of continuing to deny that there's anything wrong in their life.
Because if they keep denying it, the health gets worse, the finances get worse, the obstacles get worse, and the contrast with that memories of love, it's like contrast. It gets so loud, it's getting harder and harder to deny.
Mm-hmm. And then surrender to silence in quiet meditation or contemplation. Let go and enter the stillness within. Silence can heal and replenish you. So getting that alone time and going within and really getting into your soul and listening to your soul.
And I see all around me, even those that spend time by themselves, which I do see a lot of masculine, like kind of going off on their own right now, kind of like going for walks or, getting out in nature. I'm seeing that. But I'm still not sure how much they're surrendering to the silence of their own soul. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like they're getting there. I see them moving in that direction. But yeah.
Yeah, I think many are getting to that. They're doing this more and more.
They have no choice.
Yeah.
Because they're like pushed to the limits of what they can handle. And they're like, I just got to get out of here, right? I just got to go find a place where I don't have all of this pulling at me. So the universe is actually, in all of this, is pushing them to do these surrendering things. They have to. Can't be in denial if something is so loud in your face that you can't ignore it anymore.
And I keep getting Venus retrograde too. Now, especially with the Memories of Love card. And we have to remember that Venus affects all of us. We really connect Venus to the feminine energy, but we all have feminine energy. And Venus is also connected to abundance. And so Venus retrograde is affecting the masculine too. And it's in Scorpio. So it's about, what have you been denying? What have you been refusing to see? What have you been burying? What are your secrets? What is your past life stuff? Again, that past life stuff might not be conscious, but it's sure to show its face somewhere.
Yeah, and some don't even want to really look at that stuff and delve deep into it. But thank goodness we have retrogrades. Thank goodness. I woke up this morning thinking about the blessings of Venus retrograde, because I know you probably know that's always been a challenging time for me for whatever reasons. And this is the first Venus retrograde where I haven't been having the same kind of things happening. But I do think it's because you start to see where you've still got things to work on, and I've been encouraged. But thank God for the retrogrades going into that, because it's needed right now.
And for some that are having issues shifting from their soulmate relationship or karmic relationship, however you want to see that, Venus retrograde is going to figure pretty prominently in there. Venus is in Scorpio, and Scorpio has to learn the lesson of letting go. And so with her going retrograde, it's almost like she came in there, and after Libra too, Libra, we're talking about balanced partnerships and how do we get in that balanced partnership. Then she goes into Scorpio and it's like, well, you haven't really let go. You have to learn this lesson of letting go. So now go back. Go back and look at where you're not balanced in your partnership.
It doesn't have to be conscious. That's what the beauty of all of this is that as masculine and feminine are awakening, it's like you don't have to hold it consciously in your mind. The higher energies are bringing it to you anyways. You know what I mean? You're still going to learn those lessons, whether or not you're self-aware.
Right.
Because we've also talked a little bit about that in terms of self-awareness.
So what do we want to talk about next, Debbie? Do we have anything else? I'm thinking maybe this deck.
That's exactly the deck I was going to reach for. I just got gifted this deck, and I haven't really worked with it, but this kind of speaks to what? The sacred partnerships?
Do you want to draw the cards?
No. I'm enjoying this.
Okay.
I'm enjoying this.
So what is our first question?
All right.
How do we want to word this question for the awakening masculine?
What do you need to know to realize your dreams of actually creating the union you want? And the card just flipped right out.
Here's another one.
Heart-to-heart conversations. Wow.
This is the Romance Angel deck by Doreen Virtue.
Yeah. So what do they need to know in order for them to actually actualize their sacred union, no matter what it is? I mean, or who it's with.
Perfect.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Really, you can't make this stuff up, people. This is just mind-blowing. I love this.
Okay, so the first card is Heart-to-Heart Conversations. I'll read what the card says, but I don't always go by that. Honestly discuss your feelings with each other. Well, the awakening masculine, I think, needs to open up to everybody in their life. They don't express themselves at times, whether it's their soulmate / karmic partner, whether it's their sacred union, whether it's anybody in their life. I think they repress a lot of what they're feeling and don't speak their truth.
in a loving way. And, that's why heart-to-heart conversations.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't I don't like the way you do this when you do this. This is how I'm honestly feeling. How are we connecting? And I'm actually going into seeing them deal with the stuff at home.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't even about coming into union with their beloved of the memories of love and all this. This is talking about coming into union with the partner that they're with, having heart-to-heart conversations, and starting to be openly honest about where you're at. Where are we at? Where are we going? How do we mesh? How do we not mesh? Are we meant to be together? If we're meant to be together, what can we do to be together? Work it out in whatever way that they need to, and stop denying that there's an issue.
Mm-hmm. Confront their phobias. And I think when we talk about the karmic, there's phobias there from past lives because they've been through different situations with that person in past lives.
Over and over and over many times.
Sometimes that person has had power over them in other lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in this life.
Yeah. And so just like we oftentimes have to break free of that pattern, the reason we call him a karmic partner is because there's a karmic situation that keeps coming around over and over and over again. The awakening feminine had to, or in some cases still has to, if they're in a relationship that's not healthy for them. And I don't even want to say not healthy because, in our own situation, Debbie,
it's not what they would prefer.
Right.
Healthy equals not what you'd prefer.
Right. You're just not getting all your needs met.
Or you're not expressing yourself in the equal way with the person that you want to, or you don't have the same interests, or whatever it is.
Right. It's just like that relationship has gone past. But it can be very hard to move on from that because there's this karmic pattern in play. And we've got to break that karmic pattern. In some cases, that person had control many, many lifetimes. And so that's something that we, in order to empower ourselves as we awaken and as we ascend, we have to break free and empower ourselves and say, I am my own sovereign being. I'm going to
be in my own power. I'm going to stand in my own power.
And it's not always so overt as, I'm being abused. It's not always like that. But that's where you have to go deep within yourself and connect with these things. Hopefully that makes sense to people.
Oh, well, it makes sense to me.
Okay, good.
Yes, and this heart-to-heart conversation, I see that being very, very strongly between needing to work things out within the family unit.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't move forward into your ideal memories of love and the true catalytic heart connection, union, whatever you want to call it, until you've dealt with your stuff. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't deal with your stuff and heal within where you are, you're going to take it with you.
Yep.
So the next one is
Unrequited Love. There's not enough attraction or chemistry to keep this relationship going.
Oh my.
This is right under the denial card and the phobias card.
Oh my God, isn't it? Really, seriously. So, yeah, because I would say unrequited love, the first thing that jumps to my mind is a relationship that was meant to be that never was or whatever. But no, the description very clearly says there's not enough attraction or chemistry to keep this relationship going. Guys, there's a very strong indicator that I've been getting in I see in the cards right here. We're pushing these relationships beyond the point of where they're supposed to be at. They're really supposed to shift. Either there's a relationship that's sitting there that needs to transform into something else to mesh with the new earth. Because there are couples right now that are meant to be together. And I'm not talking twin flames, twin souls, none of that stuff. I'm talking about relationships in general. It's time to move past relationships that have run their courses. And you can tell because there isn't the passion and the attraction and the chemistry, and it's like it runs out of gas.
Venus retrograde. Venus
Baby.
retrograde in Scorpio, unrequited love. I'm not feeling loved too. But yeah, looking at our relationships and saying, where is the love here? I think there's a kind of disservice that goes on because there's this belief system out there that love doesn't last. Oh yeah, you marry someone and things are great the first few years, but then that wanes.
And that it's natural to have it go.
The passion goes, the sex goes, and you get involved with your children. Yes, that's the way it is. And so you should just accept that.
Right.
But that is not true. It doesn't have to be like that.
Mm-mm.
Passion, desire, love, companionship can last.
It does last.
A lifetime, an eternity.
An eternity. The only thing that's stopping us is continuing to believe that it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Unrequited love. Okay, now what's...
And so, yeah, so... But I think unrequited love, too, before we move on to the next card, I think a lot of the awakened masculine just feel unlovable. And I think that's part of their unrequited love. And going back to that 5 of Pentacles, which can be abandonment and feeling like no one cares about you. And that's a major thing that needs to be healed as we awaken is our belief that we're unworthy of love. And maybe they're not just their karmic partner, but with their sacred partner and feeling like my sacred partner doesn't love me enough, or how can they love me?
I'm not worthy.
I'm not worthy of their love that they want to give me.
Right. And that goes back to what we were talking about. We can't empower another person. So the sacred partner can say to their sacred partner all day long how wonderful and amazing and beautiful and loving and kind and caring and everything that they are. That doesn't make them that in their own minds.
That's right.
Can't empower another person. They have to find it in their own selves.
Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, why we find a lot of twins in separation, because you can't. Like, I get this all the time. Well, how come they don't see how much I love them? It's because they don't love themselves. So they can't see that why another person would love them.
It's awkward and uncomfortable when you don't really love yourself to have someone shower adoration on you because you think that person's crazy. Yeah. Why would that person shower their love on me? Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's that whole, we're going to have a nice long conversation, I think, about empowerment. I think that this is where a lot of like my teachings are going, where my teaching and learning is about the empowerment stuff. Yeah.
And the last card here is, it's safe for you to love. Open your heart to give and receive the highest energy of all.
Gosh, is that like a card to sum it up on? I mean, seriously, if you talk about where readings naturally end, you know what I'm saying? Look at this. That is truly what's happening in all of this right here, is that the universe is having to come along and do its magic to move the awakening masculine to a place where they feel safe.
To open their hearts.
And think about it. A lot of what happens if you're in a relationship where you're in service? You're in service to your partner. And this is what we've been talking about the whole time. The shifting of that teeter-totter. So you're in service, all right? That person does not respect you if you are serving on them. It always is that way. If someone doesn't love themselves, it's hard to love them. If someone doesn't respect themselves enough to stand in their power, it's easy to get frustrated with them. Like, step up. You know, why aren't you stepping up? Why do I have to always be the one? This is the energy, all right? Mm-hmm. So what happens in that situation is you end up with a little bit of abusive situations too, to where, you know, that partner is very frustrated. Why don't you step up? Why don't you draw your boundaries? Why don't you do these things that the awakening feminine's already learning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And guess what they're feeling? It's not safe because I'm being yelled at all the time. I'm being told that I should do this and I should be this, and how come you're not more this? And I'm thinking about it, gosh, as I sit here, I'm thinking about my own situation with me being an awakened, what I consider an awakened being, and how the spousal situation went. Well, why don't you say that what you mean? And why don't you show up and tell them that what you need them to do? And why don't you, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting here saying, from that perspective, they learn it's not safe to love because they're getting attacked by the person they're trying to ride in and be the white horse with. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And so they don't feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
So do we have another question? Now I'm starting to think there's another question. How do they learn this?
And plus, we know that they're dealing with abandonment.
Right.
From the past. They've got phobias. We've got the leaving card. We've got the 5 of Pentacles.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't felt safe to allow that love to flow in some situations because they've been hurt. And sometimes they feel like no one loves them. And so it's really hard to open your heart when you feel that. But I think, the feminine has gone through this because that was how the feminine grew. Because for twin flames, and this is a big generalization, of course, the feminine a lot of times was afraid. Like the male rejects. The masculine is like rejecting the feminine all the time. And yet the feminine still has that love because that is the feminine energy. Just unconditional love. And so no matter how the masculine has rejected the feminine, she's opened her heart.
Yeah.
Over and over.
Can't close my heart again. I have to keep opening it because I maybe sometimes just want to recapture that connection, or
even when you're not feeling safe. Even when you're feeling like, I don't want to, this is scary, I'm going to get hurt.
Right.
And so I think the awakening masculine has to go through something similar on their end too, to get them to learn the lesson of unconditional love. Even if you don't feel safe. And when you get that memory of love, even whatever your situation, that memory of love opens your heart.
True. And it doesn't go away.
Right. Like you said, it can't be purged out. You can't close it. You can't forget about it.
Mm-mm.
It's there.
Once you've experienced it, even if you want to kid yourself and think you're going to experience it with a lot of other people or whatever, it's always there for me because it could happen with anybody. The purpose of it is the reason why it's not with everybody and why it typically is with one person is because it forces you to have to deal with stuff you don't want to deal with. Because the memory's not leaving and you're not finding it where you are or with anybody else. So it's sitting there in your memory.
Right. You can't recreate it with the person who's not.
Wouldn't it be
like
nice?
A karmic partner? You can kid yourself and pretend, like you say, I'm going to recreate this with my karmic partner.
It's not possible.
No. Because
unrequited love, you're past that point with them.
Right.
You've run out of gas in that relationship. And you're just for whatever reason. But, I was asking myself the question, how does the awakening masculine find that it becomes safe to love again?
Okay, we can ask that.
Well, I was going to say one of the things that came to me, we can ask that and pull another card, but heart-to-heart conversations with that person.
Mm-hmm.
When these people start to have open-hearted conversations, and that might come with the energies of the awakening, of becoming more conscious, of becoming more in touch with their feelings, in touch with how they feel about things and perceive. If these partners can sit down and have open-hearted conversations about the truth instead of what the denial is, if they can start talking about, geez, our relationships kind of run out of gas. What does this mean for us? What is it that we can do? They can open up their heart in honesty with the person that they're with. That is being in your truth and honesty. When you can open up your heart to your soulmate, your karmic partner, and you can say, hey, what's our truth here? Together. That's love. That's genuine love. When they find genuine love within their own situations enough to have these conversations, they're going to learn that they can trust to love, and you don't have to be in denial, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a way, it's like, I want this card to be reversed. The surrender to silence. Because in a way, conversations need to be had. And maybe they need to go into the silence to figure out what those conversations are.
Well, I'm chilling on that, and I think I want to clarify a little bit so people understand what I think you're saying, Deb.
Yeah.
Having a heart-to-heart conversation with their current partners, that's going to heal the family issues that we talked about, and the children, and that breaking the chains of the past and the family. And the DNA lines and all of that. Because that's what's happened, is that communication has not been there as part of it. And when we open up to honest conversations and being our authentic selves, that heals. People get to speak and be heard.
Yes.
When we have that open-hearted conversation. And in these relationships that have passed their prime, people feel like they're not being heard. And that's important for validation for both people. And then that allows them to walk away in love and creating that support for the children then.
And it heals the abandonment piece, because no one's abandoning anyone.
Right.
It's a mutual decision to move forward with where you need to go.
Right.
And the benefits that come along for the children involved and the other people in their lives. That it doesn't have to be the phobia of like blowing up the whole... Well, remember Rob and Angie were talking about that, and how Rob had to pretty much, he said he had friends that, you know, like, boom, all of a sudden, he and his karmic partner were like, okay, we're divorcing, and everybody went, what? Because they were all, like, not partying, but they were all social together.
No one knew that Rob was not happy in his relationship.
Right, absolutely. So, but what ended up happening is he got through it, you know? I mean,
Right.
That's the thing. We have to figure out that we think the whole world's going to blow up when we make a shift and change. And honestly, some people might care a little bit. A lot of people are really involved in their own lives. They'll go, oh, okay, that happened. All right, I'm moving on. It's not a really big deal to them,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
I think something we haven't touched on, too, that maybe we should, is when we think we have to be the white knight and save people.
Which I understand, by the way, as an awakening feminine. I understand that energy. I guess it's because that's my masculine, right?
Well, yeah, because we all have to deal with wanting to save people as empaths and as sensitives and spiritual people.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're doing that with this, again, I'm not sure karmic is a good term, but this is the term that we use. It's the language that we have for now. That person has their own life to live, and when you're hanging on to that relationship, they're not moving forward into what they should be doing too.
Right.
And they can move forward and be happy with someone else.
Right.
But you think, like, I have to save this person, so I'm going to hold on, make them stay with me, even though we're miserable. Not seeing that when we let go and surrender to what the universe is allowing, that person has a whole life that they need to live. And those people are likely awakening in their own time. Some of them might even be twin flames and sacred partners with someone else.
Right. It's almost like there's a big do-si-do that needs to happen where everybody kind of awakens and says, okay, it's time to switch it up. Because it's like everyone's waiting for somebody else to make the move. And, you know, I mean, I relate that like in my very own home situation. And I think we've talked about that. Like, I do tend to be more open with what my own circumstances are when I'm doing things like this. And it's time, you know, universe is telling me it's time. It's time for me to step forward and do what I need to do. Maybe I'm the linchpin. You know, we say we're creating our own reality. Really? Well, maybe that is true. Mm-hmm. The feminine has to do, I know there's a lot of the feminine that is actually like you and many of my friends around me have moved on into that position. It's like a do-si-do. So
what do you think, Deb? Have we answered questions? Do we have any more questions?
I really thought that was a good note to end on, and that the ultimate outcome for all of this is that it is safe to love. When they get to the place where it is safe to love again through their heart conversations with their current partners, and even with their sacred partners, being able to become more and more open with what's happening in their lives, share more information, and realize the support system that they have in their sacred partners, because that's the truth. Mm-hmm. Sacred partners are really there as if you could say a one soul being, a one energy entity that's there to support the other person,
even when it kind of goes against your own agenda.
Right.
Oh,
absolutely. We find ourselves just like twins that come in as brother and sister in the womb. There is this oneness of experience, and we're there to support each other.
Like that unconditional love is there. Even if you're not getting back,
right?
The support, the love and support is there. So
you feel it.
Yeah.
You feel it. So
that's a good point for something that the awakening masculine could.
Well, they need to know
understand.
That they can start opening up in more heart-to-heart conversations on both sides,
mm-hmm.
And they're going to discover that it's safe to love.
I wanted to say one more thing about this It's Safe for You to Love card, because as we talk about unity consciousness and balance of the masculine and feminine, this is an important lesson for all of us, because we all have masculine energy, and the role of the masculine energy is protection. When we're balanced within, it's our divine masculine that protects the divine feminine. And when she feels threatened, our inner divine masculine steps up, creates boundaries, and empowers us. So I think it's safe for you to love is important for everyone, whether you identify as a masculine or feminine.
Yep.
And that you need your masculine to be empowered and balanced to allow you to really feel safe to love whatever the situation is.
Right, because part of that, you bring an excellent point. We have to have boundaries within ourselves to be safe to love. Mm-hmm. We have to know that we are in our power and that we can't be hurt in order for us to be able to open up our hearts to love. As long as you feel like you can be hurt, you're going to have defenses up. And there it goes right back to that Rumi. Your job is to eliminate all blocks to the love, so that it can flow. Those aren't his words, but yeah.
And maybe in some cases, the awakening masculine needs to set some boundaries with those people in their lives.
Oh, definitely.
That don't make them feel safe to love. That maybe if they're being criticized, judged, in some cases abused.
Right.
For everybody. That goes for everybody.
That's a universal call, which is why I think it's a really good card to sum up on, because isn't that what this is all about?
Mm-hmm.
Union is becoming, it's safe to love.
It's
safe to love. And these are all the things that we need to see happen.
Deb, I loved this. I loved having this conversation.
Oh my gosh, this was so much fun. And wow, the cards couldn't have been more telling, because we've done a lot of conversing. We've done a lot of talking without, crystallizing it and putting it in a crystal form. But here it is.
Yeah.
Just all came right out in the cards. Who would have thunk?
It was great how we complimented each other, I think, throughout this reading and brought up points. And
well, what we're learning, I think, is we're learning collaboration. I think when we start to step into our true, authentic beings, our tendency is to really crave collaboration. And collaboration means space for both people to participate in something. And it goes back to the Celestine prophecy, where you give your energy to the conversation so that the other person has their highest level of communication. So it's partnership and the creation of something that is like a third energy.
Yeah. So we're in our own little union.
High five on that. I loved it. That was fun. We need to do that again sometime.
Maybe we'll do a Divine Feminine.
Yay!
Or Awakening Feminine reading.
There you go. Maybe. All right. Well, thank you so much for pulling all those cards. I enjoyed it.
Thanks for the conversation. I hope that you guys enjoyed it too. If you would like to connect with Debbie, her Facebook page, her website is True Sacred Union. She also has 2 Facebook groups, Raising Vibrational Frequencies and True Sacred Union on Facebook. And my website, of course, is Twinstrology.com or marlakelly.com, and I'm on Facebook and Instagram too. You can link to that in the comments. Thank you guys. Sending you a lot of love.
Namaste. Bye.